Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. On this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, where during the previous night once again both the Russians and the Ukrainians attacked each other using missiles and drones. And before we start, once again let's discuss the situation in the area of the city of Voronezh. If you remember, yesterday the Ukrainians attacked the central part of the settlement, and according to different sources, the Ukrainians were using the Storm Shadow missiles. The sources reported there were from between 4 and 12 missiles that were launched by the armed forces of Ukraine, and as a result of attack, this building, as you can see in the central part of the settlement, was significantly damaged. Later, the Russian authorities stated about the casualties among civilians. And this morning, we received another video about the Voronezh strike, and here we can see the moment when the Ukrainians were attacking the territory of this facility, and in this very moment, we can see a missile. So this is the Storm Shadow missile that the Ukrainians were using to attack this facility. As for this video, we can see at least 3 explosions, so that is why we can make a conclusion that at least 3 missiles were used by the Ukrainians. Once again, pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian sources stated that there were up to 12 missiles used by the armed forces of Ukraine. As of the night between the 22nd and the 23rd of June of 2026, we received another report, but this time from the area of the city of Belgorod. We have these pictures, and here we can see that the Ukrainian armed forces attacked Vasilievka in the Belgorod region. So we can see a building reduced to ruins, and the sources reported that it seems that the Ukrainians were using Storm Shadow missiles once again. So 2 days in a row, the Ukrainians used the Storm Shadow missiles to attack deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation. As for the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, this morning they also reported that the Russians used 135 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine. Once again, the Russians used a minimal number, which means that since the beginning of the previous week, most likely the Russians managed to concentrate around 1,000 of drones, which means that during the next massive attack that most likely is going to happen very soon, the Russians may use thousands of drones and dozens of missiles to attack different objects on the territory of Ukraine, trying to deal significant damage and to retaliate for every single strike that the Ukrainians have carried out since the beginning of the previous week. And we are talking about a strike on the city of Moscow, Voronezh, and of course Kerch, and many other different places and sites. Now let's move further and let's discuss additional updates about Russian attack. During the previous 12 hours, the Russians attacked the city of Kryvyi Rog. A lot of updates were received from this area. A lot of very big explosion took place right after the Russians struck the territory of the settlement, and the sources reported that the Russians attacked an object of energy infrastructure. Furthermore, the Russians attacked the city of Zaporizhzhia. As for this territory, the sources reported that the Russians were attacking the southwestern parts of the settlement. The Russians were attacking these facilities, and as a result of attack, this parking site was significantly damaged. Here we can see lots of trucks that were destroyed by Russians. We can see these trucks, destroyed trucks from different angles, so which means that the Russians destroyed something like a service center where the Ukrainians were repairing these trucks, and we can see these trucks even from this, let's say, angle of this satellite picture. So this is another attack carried out by Russians on Ukraine's logistics and on possible carriers of drones that the Ukrainians used to attack deep inside of the territory of Russia. Furthermore, according to information we have, the Russians destroyed another gas station, this time in the northwestern parts of the city of Zaporizhzhia. This gas station was destroyed, and this is already, we see that the Russians have already destroyed several dozens of gas stations since the beginning of this year, and the Russians continue this process. Furthermore, the Russians continued attacking the settlements of Pavlograd and Vasilievka. As for the settlement of Vasilievka, since the beginning of June of 2026, the Russians have attacked the settlement of Vasilievka almost every single day. Every single day we were receiving more and more updates on this matter. The Russians usually attack the settlement of Vasilievka during the night period of time, and we understand why exactly the Russians are doing this, because the settlement of Vasilievka is located right behind the evacuation zone in the Dnipropetrovsk direction. I would would like to remind you that several days ago we received a report about mandatory evacuation of these territories, which means that now the Ukrainians are trying to bring as many as possible forces in this area with the purpose to deploy them and to wait for the Russian offensive in this direction if this offensive is going to happen. And we received the report that another building was destroyed by Russians. As for the settlement of Pavlograd, the sources reported that the Russians were attacking the the northwestern parts of the settlement, the western parts of the settlement. Here we can see also a lot of trucks located in this area. Even this satellite picture shows this us. We can see a fire anomaly recorded through this area, and we have a video of explosion, and then we can see the secondary explosion, which means that the Russians most likely managed to hit something badly and to damage badly this territory. And here we have a video of consequences of attack. As you can see, this entire micro district, this entire territory was almost reduced to ruins as a result of the Russian strike and as a result of the secondary detonation. The Ukrainians also attacked the territory of Russia. They attacked the southern regions. We have a report that the Ukrainians, during the previous 48 hours, intensified their attacks on logistics of the northern Crimea. I would like to remind you that since the beginning of June, the Russians have tried to stabilize the situation, and they have built lots of pontoon bridges through the northern part, but the pontoon bridges built the Russian pontoon bridges didn't stop the logistics, but the Ukrainians began attacking vehicles that are trying to move in this area. And through this video we can see dozens of episodes of how Ukrainians were attacking mobile fire groups that were convoying the fuel trucks. So we can see lots of episodes how Ukrainians were using drones to attack and destroy the Russia's logistics through the territory. Furthermore, we have several videos from the area of the settlement of Mariupol. Here we have another object of infrastructure, probably a fuel truck that was destroyed somewhere along M14 road. We see that the war of attrition continues and intensifies, and sooner or later, obviously, somebody will not be able to continue the same situation. Another important thing, this morning, the Russians made a very interesting statement. Today, the special aide Ushakov stated that Russia is ready for dialogue with the European Union. This is a very important statement, and you know that these statements that was made by Russians at the same time with all these attacks deep inside of the territory of Russia and the fuel crisis that is brewing, looks like the Russians are trying to win some time to stabilize the situation, to win some time till autumn and till winter of 2026, because the Russians understand that if the conflict continues till the winter of 2026, then everything will change once again, and the Russians will try to destroy the energy infrastructure of Ukraine, as the Ukrainians are trying to destroy the fuel infrastructure of Russia during these days. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation on the ground. And first let's talk about the Konstantinovka agglomeration, where the Russians continue their major offensive operation. And as a result of clashes, according to different sources, the Russians managed to improve their positions. For example, this is the situation by the end of the 21st of June. This is the end of the 22nd of June. Yesterday's evening, we had a video where we could see how two Russian soldiers raised two Russian flags through the most northern parts of the settlement. Yesterday, based on this video, we adjusted the map. Today we received additional video published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians through the western and the northwestern parts of the settlement of Konstantinovka. A lot of episodes during this video, and one of them was geolocated right exactly at this point. So based on this video, we came to the conclusion that Russians during the previous 24 hours, during the previous 48 hours, improved their positions through the western parts of the city of Konstantinovka, and the Russians continue advancing further in the northwestern direction with the purpose to establish complete control over the settlement of Vasilievka. The Ukrainians sent more and more troops in the direction of the city of Konstantinovka with the purpose to stabilize the situation and to slow down the Russians. In this video, we can see how Ukrainians were entering the northern parts of the settlement of Konstantinovka under the fire of the Russian active drone operators. So we see that Ukrainians are trying trying to slow down the Russians between the Novoselovka and Chervony micro districts of the city of Konstantinovka, and the Ukrainians are sending more and more troops in this direction with these purposes. At the same time, we start receiving reports that the Russians shift their focus in the area between the cities of Chasov Yar and Konstantinovka, and as you can see, we have changes in this area. This is the end of the 22nd of June, and this is the beginning of the 23rd of June of 2026. And according to this report that was published by a pro-Russian source, the Russians managed to infiltrate this territory to concentrate a critical mass in this area, and currently there are positions of both the Russians and the Ukrainians, and the Russians are about to finish the battle for this pocket. Most likely in coming days, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will report complete control over the territory, and if it happens, the Russians would be able to maintain the line and to prepare themselves before moving further in the northwestern direction with the purpose to attack the settlement of Alexeyevo-Drushkovka from behind. So the battle for this area intensifies. Now let's move further. As for the Lyman direction, during the previous 24 hours, nothing special was recorded. We just have a report published by the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, and according to this report, the Russians improved their positions through the settlement and took several more buildings under complete control. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation through the northern directions. The Russians intensified their offensive operation through the northeastern parts of Kharkiv region, and according to latest updates we received from this area, the Russians intensified their bombardments of the settlement of Khatnya. It seems that the Russians are planning to improve their positions in this area and to continue offensive operation deep inside of the northeastern parts of the Kharkiv region. Now let's move further. As for the Volchansk direction, small changes were recorded along the line of combat contact. This is the end of the 22nd of June, and this is the beginning of the 23rd of June of 2026. Pro-Ukrainian sources published a video of how a Russian soldier was moving along railways and how the Ukrainians were trying to attack Russian soldiers, which means that based on this video we can make a conclusion that these territories along these three lines and along these railways are under complete Russian control. The Russians continue offensive operation, and as we discussed during the previous videos, now the Russians are tasked to improve their positions as much as possible in the area of the settlement of Belgorod with the purpose in the end to take under complete control this territory. We have discussed most of the updates regarding the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, and that's it for the short video. The military summary channel remains to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.